live television, change of plans. We'll have Peter Couples after this segment. It started life at the executive level, and it ended it as, I guess, the favourite of Greek greengrocers. It was the Valiant.
Valiant, the car you really deserve. Valiant. Tomorrow. Why is it always tomorrow? There you are on life's treadmill, waiting for tomorrow to bring the car you really deserve. Valiant.
You remember that? 25 years ago, the first Valiant rolled off the production lines in Australia. Even though production stopped in 1981, the Valiant holds a rather unique place in Australian motoring history. 500,000 were built and sold here. To celebrate its 25th anniversary, motoring writer Tony Davis has published a book called, naturally, The Valiant Book. Would you please welcome Tony Davis and friend. Welcome, Tony.
You don't mind me parking here, sorry about that.
I wish we'd planned that.
Well, the funny thing is actually that your producer has just bought that car, or is negotiating to buy that car, and he might not now.
Does he still want it? What is that car worth now?
Well, it's an undisclosed sum, actually, that your producer's paid for it. But that 1962 one's a fish up to $14,000, which you couldn't give them away a few years ago,
no.
so it's quite a...
And how much were they initially? How much would that have been used?
About £2,500, so around $5,000 when it came out.
Though I have to confess, that's the only one of the Valiants that came to Australia that I really liked. That was the space age look of that was quite different to anything else, wasn't it?
Yeah, they pulled that space age when it came out, which is, well, today, unusual perhaps.
The panel beater's nightmare, though. I mean, if you got a bit of a ding in that, you'd be in trouble.
Yeah, it was a fairly expensive thing to repair because every panel on it is curved and curved fairly exquisitely.
Exquisitely for those who love them.
Mm.
It is. I mean, that's that's obviously an original.
Yes, this is in original condition, very good condition too. It's done something over 100,000 miles.
But it's not a one-owner by original.
No, it's not a one-owner. No.
All right. Now inside again, I mean I guess in 1987 they look fairly ordinary inside compared with the way we run them now. But we've got some footage I think from inside that somewhere, don't we? Just to talk about it. That was the most. There we go. There's the automatic gear shift with those buttons. I guess that was the most.
The latest high-tech thing in 1962.
Do you remember that? Do you remember the buttons they used to have in the dial? Those people who had Valiants? No, couldn't afford one. Did any other car have that?
Not only other Chryslers. The Chrysler Royal had it before that, but it was the first car made in Australia.
And there's the
assembled in Australia.
The grill, of course, but we had the dashboards in those of the Chrysler itself looked like sort of silver paper, and the plastic seats. Someone this morning was saying the plastic seats. You remember those where you'd go to the beach and have to put the towel down because your skin would get stuck to it? All those wonderful things of Valiants.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to write a book?
Well, I was doing various research on Australian-made cars, and I was informed that there was a great resurgence of interest in Valiant, and that turned out to be the case. And all sorts of things are happening this year in the 25th year since they came out.
Why was it special, Tony? I mean, we hear that looks a special car, but I mean, what did it do? What did they introduce to Australian motoring?
Well, the car after this introduced the V8 to Australian motorists, for which they haven't been forgiven by some people. But the
gas guzzlers.
Yeah, this car was twice as powerful as the current Holden, and Holden was selling about 1 in every 2 cars made in Australia at that time. And so to introduce for only slightly more a car that was twice as powerful, it was considerably bigger, and bigger meant better in the early 1960s, they had a winner on their hands. In fact, production went ahead so quickly that demand was so great they couldn't keep up.
Well, I mentioned 500,000 sales, which there's a lot of people obviously had love affairs with Valiants. But what was it about Valiants? You expected Valiants to have sort of pink tassels on the back window and foxtails and terrible colours, the worst colours.
It's been said that Valiants collect adornments like no other car on the road. I remember when I first got my licence in the late 70s, that was about the lowest ebb that Valiant got to, I think, in the late 70s. And we used to have competitions to see who could spot the most Grasby-esque Valiant. And
but there was the hot mustard, lemon twist, vitamin C, blonde olive, all these...
Yeah, Bondi Bleach White was an extravagant name for a car that was simply white. But that was in the early 70s when Chrysler were trying to be hip, and they produced all sorts of strange things. A car called the Chrysler Valiant V8 Charger RT 265 E38 six-pack track pack Bathurst Special, in fact, which was the actual model designation, and it was very hard to keep up with the hip market of the early 70s.
I think we've got a commercial with the Charger. Let's have a look. You might remember this one.
Hey, Charger!
Hey, Charger. Hey, Charger! Hey, Charger!
The unbelievable can happen to you.
Do you remember that? Remember those ads? Have you got any thoughts in writing this? I mean, do you know why it was that Valiant had this sort of image?
Which image? The Charger image?
Generally this image of being, as I say, with the foxtail and the tassels and all those sorts of things. Why that is against Holden's?
Well, as a hint, they've been called Mediterranean Mercedes. They certainly had a big following amongst migrants in the late 70s is when it really took off, because they were cheap to buy, they were roomy, and...
a big V8.
Yeah, exceptionally durable. And even in the late 70s, you could buy a Valiant for only a few $100s.
But again, I remember motoring magazines at the time saying that one thing they said about the Valiant was it was like it had the steering and the brakes of a billy cart, that they'd stuck a rocket engine on the back of it. Is that a fair comment or not?
No, not really. No, by the standards of their day, the brakes, their handling was right up there with Holden and Falcon. So, no, they went very well, and they stopped quite well, and their handling was as good as anything else around the same time.
What about the Valiant? Is there a Valiant car club? Is there a Valiant...
there are numerous Valiant car clubs, yes, including two in Sydney, one for this model, the R and the S series, which were the ones made in 1962, and just a Valiant and Chrysler Owners Association for people with various Chrysler vehicles through the years.
Yes, all right. Anything planned? Is there a major rally planned for
There's an all-Chrysler Day in October, when they're getting probably the greatest assembly of Valiants around. That's in Sydney in October, and there's various other things in various state clubs being planned.
Were they given to rust any more than other Australian cars?
No, no. All cars from the 60s have rust problems, but no worse in Valiants than in anything else.
Yes, all right. As we said, 500,000 sales, so there's obviously some lovers out there, and Tony's book is called The Valiant Book. There you go. It's on sale around Australia now if you'd like to catch up on the memories that you had back in the 60s and 70s with the Aussie Valiant. There it is. Thanks, Tony, very much indeed. Please thank you, Tony. Thank you. Tony was going to drive the car out. We weren't sure he'd get in the door again, you see. We'll see if Peter Couples is ready for us next.